Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. We are already at the second reading of Al-Risala al-Ladunniyyah of Imam Al-Ghazali. And if you are, there are many, of course, editions of Al-Risala al-Ladunniyyah using the Al-Bayt Institute for Islamic Thought copy that was edited by Dr. Muhammad Ahmed al-Sharif. And if you happen to use that, we are at the very bottom of page 39. It was yesterday. It was an introduction. I've tried to address the differences between the scholars regarding the authenticity of Risala al-Ladunniyyah, and I did say that Abdurrahman Badawi, in his mu'allafat, the works of Imam Al-Ghazali, the books of Imam Al-Ghazali, he said that there was a manuscript in Istanbul where the Risala al-Ladunniyyah was published along with two other works of Imam Al-Ghazali, and it dates a few years after his passing away, rahimahullah. And I said we'll just keep an eye while we are reading and to see what if there is anything in the text itself. And here he is responding as through the responding to someone who doubts the al-ilm al-ladunni, al-ilm al-ghaybi al-ladunni, through a friend of his, that some scholars deny the possibility of that kind of knowledge that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we tried to explain that knowledge is either acquired or not. Acquired knowledge, just simply strive hard. Even if you don't strive hard, all it takes that you are going to acquire knowledge. You are born, from the moment of birth, you start acquiring knowledge. You hear sounds. In a few months, you will your eyesight will be good enough to start taking in details, and that's the main source of sensory information. You will definitely acquire language. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instilled in the human being the biology necessary for the innate readiness in the human fitra, but it's really the infrastructure of fuel. This is that will enable you to learn language. You follow the context in which you live. This is how people speak their mother tongue. So acquiring knowledge is given, so much so that some people believe that you can even read the story to a fetus. We don't want to go that far. At least we know that acquiring knowledge is immediate. Whether one remembers or not, that's a different story. The non-acquired knowledge. We said you have innate knowledge, such as knowing how to breastfeed, knowing that there is a once you start crawling, you are on the edge of the stairs or somewhere where there is sense of depth. Instinctively, you know that there's danger. If you ask why then babies fall, they cannot coordinate their movement yet. That's a different, at any rate, fine motor still in the development stage. But there's another part which is not innate. We talk about, for example, revelation, which is given to prophets and messengers. And there's a part that is inspired, like in the story of Al-Khidr, with Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. من لدنا اللدني من لدنا in the language of the Quran. In his response, Imam Al-Ghazali mentioned something. So we did cover a couple of pages, 3 pages. But in these 3 pages, I would like to highlight one argument that might have skipped those who followed the first session, but if not, Imam Ghazali says, how do you know? How do you know, basically, the interpretation, tafsir, exegesis? How do you know that? When it has not been known before, it's not something that you'd reiterate as is. Otherwise, there'll be no multiple exegesis of the Quran, multiple tafsir, and you know very well that in Islam we don't have a canonized tafsir. It doesn't stop with any mufassir, and it's ongoing, and that's something beautiful. It's ongoing. How do you know if there is no? Where is the source of that? Of all this, I'm going to liberally say creativity in order to interpret. That's when Imam Al-Ghazali says فكيف يعلم علم التفسير فإن القرآن هو البحر المحيط المشتمل على جميع الأشياء ليس جميع معانيه وحقائق تفسيره مذكورة في التصانيف المشهورة. Not all meanings are recorded in the known famous books of tafsir. Okay. And apparently, this man they might لا يعد العلم إلا الفقه والكلام. And we can see it even in specializations at universities today, in the colleges of Sharia. One might think that I'm going to study fiqh because it's really the priority, the science par excellence in Islam. And it might include a certain bias against the other sciences. And Imam Ghazali says, this claimant, this ما ذاق طعم شراب الحقيقة ما ذاق طعم شراب الحقيقة. And Imam Ghazali said he would not accept any admission that comes simply without true knowledge. Yes. And I'm going to read now from Margaret Smith's translation, and the very last thing that's said in Arabic. And I'm not satisfied with his acknowledgement of it in pretending to know or guessing at what, in fact, he did not know. Then that friend said, I wish that you would mention some of the classes of the sciences and prove that the knowledge which you claim, that is inspired knowledge, is valid and attributed to yourself, and maintain your assertion of it. I replied, this which you seek to have explained is exceedingly difficult, but I will show what are its antecedents as far as I can, and in accordance with the time at my disposal and what occurs to my mind. I do not want to prolong the discussion, for the best discourse is that which is brief and shows the way. I have asked God for his favor and help, and I have mentioned the request of my good friend in regard to this officious proceeding on my part. Now, why did Imam Al-Ghazali say it is difficult? Why? Think again about the story of think about the Al-Khidr again with Musa alayhi salam. We talk about a messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, and we talk about a man who received that kind of special knowledge, and Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam would not know unless the Khidr reveals to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam why he did what he did. The three incidents, of course. For example, poking a good ship on which they were traveling, and he poked, like he created a hole in the side of the ship, and Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam exclaimed about the whether he wants to cause the ship to drown and along with the people on it. Of course, there was no immediate answer because he also knew from the very beginning that Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam will be impatient. Okay. When sometimes, and not all people, of course, sometimes, like Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show him how he quickens, how he revives the dead. قال رب أرني كيف تحيي الموتى قال ولم تؤمن قال بلى ولكن اطمئن قلبي قال فخذ 4 من الطير فصرهن إليك ثم اجعل على كل جبل منهن جزءا ثم ادعوهن يأتينك سعيا واعلم أن الله عزيز حكيم. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam to take 4 birds and to divide them and to spread them out and to call the birds, and they will come to him. Though he divided them, he now Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, he saw that they came. The Quran, of course, this is the style of the Quran. Once Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed something, ثم ادعوهن يأتينك سعيا, that's it. There is no need to say, and they came to Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, and Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam saw that they came alive, and that they gathered, and each part went to that particular bird. Did Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam saw كيف, how? He did see, but did he see how? If it's a matter of if it's that kind of if it's that kind of knowledge, Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam said that this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught me. ذلك مما علمني ربي. And in matters of taste, even when we don't talk about something that is related to the unseen world, something metaphysical, something we do believe that it exists. But even when we talk about something mundane that was not experienced by other people, such as the taste of something that I typically mention durian to people in Jerusalem, for example. No matter how no matter what you say, they're not going to have a taste of it. If they see a picture that's given, but how do you translate the taste into words? It's not possible. So one can now, I hope that one would appreciate why Imam Al-Ghazali said that it is rather difficult. A chapter, one might say, chapter 1. Know that knowledge, al-ilm, is the presentation to itself by the rational, tranquilized soul. Okay. Tranquil of the real meaning of things and their outward forms. The real meaning, if the real meaning, of course, here we talk about على ما هو عليه. That's one of the most difficult things. This might not even be the real meaning. It might not be what the scientific community agrees upon. They might agree as a scientific community, and then one day something else might emerge. Not adopting in toto the Thomas Kuhn's the structure of scientific revolutions, but there is a paradigm. In the paradigm, people might believe that a specific scientific law, they might think that this is the final, that it is absolutely true, that it will never change and nothing will challenge it. But think how we have moved from Newton to Einstein to thermodynamics, etc. Knowing things for what they are, of the real meaning of things and their outward forms, when divested of matter in themselves, and their modes of their quantities, and their substances and their essences. If they are simple, that is uncompound, by saying if they are simple, that is uncompound. In Arabic, in كانت مفردة, simple, or where, so uncompound versus compound, simple versus compound. إن كانت مفردة أو إن كانت مركبة. And the knower is the one who comprehends and perceives and apprehends, and that which is known is the essence of the thing. Saying the knower is a direct mistake in translation, because the word, let me just read the sentence in Arabic. والعالم هو المحيط المدرك المتصور. Otherwise going to be والعالم هو المحيط المدرك المتصور، والمعلوم هو ذات الشيء الذي ينتقش علمه في النفس. Now I have to admit that this is still a possibility, but still. So we talk about the larger picture, and out of that picture, out of that context, out of that universe, the known thing is which has been engraved, etched in the knower, the knowledge of which is engraved upon the soul. The nobility of the knowledge is in accordance with the nobility of the thing known, and the rank of the knower corresponds to the rank of the knowledge. There is no doubt that the most excellent of things known, and the most glorious, and the highest of them, and the most honored is God, the Maker, the Creator, the Truth, the One. For knowledge of Him, which is knowledge of the unity, and again we did speak during the last in the first session about the problem with the use of the word unity. Knowledge of the unity, for knowledge of Him, is the most excellent branch of knowledge, and the most glorious and the most perfect, and this knowledge is necessary. It must be acquired by all rational beings, as the lawgiver, upon him be blessing, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said. But before we move, again, unity presupposes multiple parts, multiple parties, multiple oneness. Originally, etymologically, the word unity does give conveys the meaning of oneness, the original etymology. But since it is used more, and more commonly as an indicator of multiple parts or multiple parties, then we just use oneness. Then we reach the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The search for knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. طلب العلم فريضة على كل Muslim. This hadith is definitely the meaning of which is definitely valid, but the chain of narrators has some weakness. But again, we stress the fact that it is the meaning is absolutely, inshallah, fine. The search for knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. He said also, may God bless him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, seek knowledge even in China. This is more problematic, and it has mentioned in the it cannot be a sound tradition. But if anything, there is no problem at all in seeking knowledge far away, let's say. In the distant past, many Europeans used to travel to Islamic centers of learning, especially in Andalusia. Science there was really remarkable in every respect. And there was a civilizational downturn in the Islamic world. And I think it's very important to always remember that the downturn is related to historical major historical events. In 1492, officially, this is the end of the Muslim presence in Andalusia. The Muslims did continue hiding outwardly, with the persecution in Spain. Many had their religion, but they continued the practice for a while. But this is it as an Islamic civilizational force. That's 1492 in the west. In the east, the Mughals destroyed practically every major Islamic city on their way. 1258, they destroyed Baghdad. They destroyed the libraries. They killed the politicians, the sultans, and they killed the scholars. They killed men ultimately, and they took women. So that was really a very devastating. So Baghdad was a civilizational force, and even east of Baghdad, all these scientific centers were destroyed. And in the center, in between Baghdad and Andalusia, not equidistant physically, but nevertheless, Jerusalem fell to the Crusaders. And we said 1492, so let's say 1500. By 1798, which is, we talk about the history of humanity, history of the region, that's not a long time. Already Napoleon Bonaparte had his campaign for 3 years, 1798 to 1801. And from that moment on, the British, as colonial power, showed up on the Middle Eastern stage. Egypt, for example, east of the Mediterranean, Italy in Libya and the Horn of Africa, the French in Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and beyond, in the south of the Sahara. And how could there be a civilizational force? So the idea of seeking knowledge in China, it's not really a sound tradition. But in general, people do not do that until today. They don't head to the east to study. They head to the west to study. And that's a very important notion. It's not anti-hadith, it's not anti-sunnah. But also it reflects a certain affinity. It's a very complex picture. I think suffice it for today, and inshallah we will continue tomorrow with the Risala al-Ladunniyyah. Until then, subhanakallah wa bihamdik. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.